The worst take of 2026 about Ole Miss, well, it was clinched yesterday by Brett McMurphy, and let me tell you, it was a humdinger.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there. I'm your host, Steven Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now it's the number one sports podcast network in America. That is because of fans like you taking in content like this, so thank you very much for that. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the quarterback room at Ole Miss, not just Trinidad at the top, but we're going to try and go through each level and why it is advantageous to have Walker Howard and A.J. Maddox and how much better it makes the Ole Miss football team as a whole. Next, we're going to look at Deuce Knight. In this age of the transfer portal, you have to start to wonder out loud what his role will be this year because there has to be playing time, even with a Heisman favorite quarterback. So we will think about that. But first, Brett McMurphy just dropped the most absurd Ole Miss prediction of 2026, and we're going to mentally try to pretzel ourselves to figure out why that happened, try to understand it a little bit. All of this and more on today's Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Remember, we're free and available on all of the podcast apps and on YouTube, and a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Use the profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NCAA or NBA finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So we have done 3 shows. This is the 3rd show this week. The first show, we were talking about the disrespect in the national media not knowing what to do with Ole Miss. And then the second show, it was like, okay, this is a top 5 team with the top quarterback in the Southeastern Conference and all that. We need to put them up here. And just to prove our point from the Monday show, Brett McMurphy came out and released his basically bowl predictions for this year. And I understand exactly how this happens. He's assigned to do it. He does the list of things. If anything changes, he doesn't change them. Perhaps he's been working on it for a couple of weeks, at least categorizing in his mind which direction it is going to go. But inevitably, in lists like this, the big brands get to make the playoffs so their fan get to engage positively. He's got Notre Dame winning the national title, by the way, beating Georgia. You got Texas and Texas A&M in there, Texas Tech's in there. All of those teams are set to go with that. They got LSU missing the playoff. That's going to farm some engagement. The smaller market teams that aren't very big, teams that you don't have to fear engagement-wise, usually do not get the benefit of the doubt on articles like this. I understand that. I used to work at Rivals.com. I know what they went through. They're trying to basically engagement farm at all time. So I understand where Brett McMurphy is coming from. But he put Ole Miss in the Music City Bowl for his prediction for this season. Now, for Ole Miss to make the Music City Bowl, a lot has to go wrong. And everybody's going to say, well, Tennessee made the playoff and ended up in the Music City Bowl the next year. Yeah, they did that with changing over about half of their defense and not having a quarterback at the beginning of the season that has been in the system. That's why Tennessee dropped, not because of talent. It's because the wrong talent left at the wrong spots. But Ole Miss has their quarterback back, a Heisman candidate quarterback. If you want that in perspective, C.J. Carr, the national championship predicted person, favorite for the Heisman Trophy. Arch Manning's on the list, favorite for the Heisman Trophy. The only favorite for the Heisman Trophy that is not on this list, well, that would be Ole Miss. And remember, Ole Miss is returning the top quarterback, the top running back in the top kicker in the entire country, not the SEC, the entire country. Both of the top 2 scorers in the Southeastern Conference are returning to Ole Miss. Ole Miss is returning the Sugar Bowl defensive MVP. You are returning a offensive lineman that is the offensive lineman of the state of Mississippi. The interior is absolutely there. There's a lot of weapons for this team. It's going to come down to how accurate their evaluations have been in the transfer portal. That's what it comes down to. And if you want to talk about maybe they could drop down, that's a conversation I would listen to. But when you talk about it like it's a foregone conclusion because you need engagement, expect everybody to clap back on stuff like that. These lists that honestly started probably 5-6 years ago, actually started with the AP poll back in the 30s. But as far as this run on lists that we have now, kind of started with Big Game Boomer. You know, love him or hate him and all that. He found something that could just print money engagement-wise on the internet. And now supposed major corporations are doing the same thing. Everybody has to have a list. And on this list, the goal is not accuracy. The goal is not truth. The goal is not how it's going to end up. The goal is engagement farming. And when a, quote, media member does that, it kind of hits their credibility just a little bit. Listen, I got my start in the media industry originally by working for the football team. 3 years in Oxford, Mississippi, before I left to go to Yahoo Sports. I was Yahoo Sports' first hiring after they acquired Rivals.com. And one thing you notice whenever you got up there and they started going, it wasn't football people that was populating this. I was a unicorn in Nashville, Tennessee at those offices. It was a lot of writers that will teach you football. We want you to be able to communicate stuff, but we're going to teach you football. And those writers, their strength was developing relationships, the connections and all of that, but they didn't know what they were seeing. And it always, you know, they would print things that were somewhat accurate from time to time whenever they could, but whenever the actual football happened, they were lacking. And that's the story with the media as a whole. They don't know what they're looking at. Like when we have Coach Corey Burton on our All Access tier, he does film breakdowns of what's going on. There's one on right now about Trinidad Chambliss in the red zone, and we got telestration material that is going to be ready shortly. So those are going to get even better. But the good thing about Corey, he's in a similar boat to me. He originally started working for Yahoo Sports. He worked on the Yahoo Sports Minute, by the way, back then. If y'all remember those, the Yahoo Sports Minute. He started working in the recruiting office at the University of Georgia and then went to Yahoo, another football guy that went into this environment and that knew what he was looking at, that knew what happened. If you want proof of that, he went from those seats at Rivals, got his degree, ended up being a high school football coach. Knowing what you're actually looking at, that's not important. Our world now has become so much about the why. It's almost like reading the phone book. It's just a process over and over. This happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and this happened. Nobody wants to talk about any of it, of why it's happening, because they can't answer that question if it goes down that road. Brett McMurphy saying that Ole Miss is going to end up in the Music City Bowl is basically nothing but clickbait. You want to talk about clickbait from videos and articles? This is national media members doing it. And listen, I'm all for some clickbait. Any headline, any artist, anybody that doesn't do it at this point is going to go out of business. It's just going to happen. If you want to build your brand, you've got to do some level of clickbait. But this one was egregious. This one was absurd. just big brand after big brand. Notre Dame winning the national championship. Come on. Come on. It just felt like a checklist of stuff that needed to be done because you want people to be interested. It is what it is. It's not the best thing in the world. It definitely assaults his credibility of what happens. I'm sure he has contacts all over the place, but I know after this article, I'm going to pay attention to what he reports less, because there's no element of actually knowing ball about these predictions. It was all about engagement farming and clickbaiting and all of that. And he does these bowl lists 2 or 3 times a year, and I think he does them every week during the season. So it's all about engagement farming and things like that. So it was absurd. It was crazy. And if Ole Miss goes to the Music City Bowl, they will be ready to light that city on fire. Top 10, top 5 talent team. All they have to do is go out there and win it. You have your Heisman level quarterback coming back. You have really explosive wide receivers on the roster, and you have a running back that is probably the best in college football. And William Eccles, can't leave out William Eccles or Lucas Carnero. They might be up there towards the best at their position as well. So we'll see exactly how that goes for everybody there. All right. So in the age of the transfer portal, Deuce Knight almost has to have a role, but what will it be? We'll drill down on the possibilities next. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll be automatically entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. You're already looking at the board thinking about which team can make a deep run. Well, this is the perfect time to lock in. I love futures this time of year. Whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title, it adds an extra layer of excitement to the game and every game down the stretch. And now, not only can you pick cash, but it can also send you to the finals. So, FanDuel.com, go there to get started. Use your profit boost on NBA futures and get entered to win a chance to go to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inboxes overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need to make the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed, Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, yes, even location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like you have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates. That's what I'm saying. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is the job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners to this show will get $75 off, or $75 in sponsored job credit to help you post your job in the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about it on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Hey, do us a favor. Subscribe, like, and comment on the video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcast you're listening to and give it a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but gives all of this free. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Even if you haven't already, go check out our Everydayer Club. You have an access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Ole Miss, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. An invite comes that to a members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of the show. Listen, when we're in there, you're there, I will give you an invitation and bring you on over to also to the Locked On Ole Miss, that a separate Discord server. You can get that as well. And also special all access episodes to Locked On Ole Miss. There's one on there right now by Coach Corey Burton about Trinidad Chambliss in the red zone, breaking it down, kind of doing a little bit of chalk talk there. So go to lockedonolemist.supercast.com and tap the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, so in this age of the transfer portal, it is important to realize exactly what you have. You have a Heisman level quarterback, maybe the best quarterback in all of football. I am not a huge fan of packages for quarterbacks. I am a fan of playing your guy. That's what I would prefer, but I do not think in this age of the transfer portal, you can do that necessarily anymore. I think there is a world where you can get 10% of the snaps for Deuce Knight, 90% to Trinidad Chambliss, and you're going to be all right. And this might be as simple as whenever the game gets out of hand, putting in the backup quarterback a little bit earlier. That might be how you get those reps. We all know that Lane Kiffin, when he was in Oxford, did not like putting the backup quarterback in until there was almost no time left. When you think that another quarterback is going to get to play a lot, he never does. Remember in the bowl game in Jacksonville with Jackson Dart or the Peach Bowl, we all wanted to see Austin Simmons. It just wasn't coming because backup quarterbacks didn't get in under Lane Kiffin. So maybe it's as simple as that. When the game gets out of hand, Deuce Knight goes into the game and Trinidad Chambliss sits down. I think there's also a running element that Ole Miss is going to want to do, and they're going to basically bubble wrap as much as they can Trinidad Chambliss, and they might have a little bit of a running system put in place for 3 or 4 plays in a ball game. We saw this a year ago with Austin Simmons. They tried some funky 2-quarterback stuff on the goal line. You could probably still do that with Deuce Knight because you have 2, honestly, more similar quarterbacks than Trinidad and Austin Simmons was. So I'm curious what they will exactly do. I think that they are going to be quick to get Trinidad Chambliss out of the game when the game is out of reach. If Ole Miss has a 3-touchdown lead on Louisville in the 4th quarter, I think you're going to see a backup quarterback come into the game for the last 10 minutes of the game. Now, the other important thing that you have to think of, and this is the trap that gets fallen into from time to time, is Trinidad Chambliss is trying to win a Heisman Trophy. So there has to be a little bit of stat padding involved. And now with a 9-game SEC schedule, you don't have that random Georgia State game that a quarterback can throw for 350 and 4 touchdowns. So maybe that will affect what is going on. I expect a package. Trinidad was brought to Ole Miss as a package quarterback. That's the important thing. That was what everybody was sold on, was a situation similar to Florida's where there was the passing quarterback in Chris Leak and there was a running quarterback in Tim Tebow. That is what last season went into, where you were going to have Austin Simmons as the starter, and then you would go to Trinidad Chambliss around the goal line. And early against Georgia State, whenever Austin Simmons was good to go, you would see that from time to time. What they didn't realize, and what nobody realized, anybody that tells you they did is absolutely lying, is how good Trinidad Chambliss was. And whenever we watched the court proceedings for Trinidad Chambliss, when he was explaining what was going on and how he didn't even quite get ready and feel absolutely healthy until he got basically to Ole Miss, that explains the jump between D2 and D1 that he made. So experience-wise, what kind of jump will he make with a full year in the system? And I think that Pete Golding and John David Baker, they're going to try and bubble wrap him from time to time. because he will slide. He is a very thoughtful player, but you don't want to risk him up by 3 scores hurting himself. You don't want to risk an Austin Simmons type situation again, because the reality is, even though Ole Miss got lucky a year ago when Austin Simmons got hurt against Kentucky in the second game of the year, it likely will not happen exactly that way again. So I expect them to get Deuce Knight reps. I expect them to run the offense with Deuce Knight. I expect Deuce Knight to learn the trade of playing quarterback from Trinidad Chambliss. And if you do all 3 of those things, the offense is going to be pretty good. As opposed to just, hey, we're going to put Trinidad Chambliss in and he's going to play quarterback for 60 minutes for 16 times. So with this season being as long as it's being, with the number of hits that you can take, I know Trinidad does a good job of avoiding a pass rush from time to time. He has very quick twitch, quick level twitchiness about his game, to where there's inside of a phone booth, he would be really hard to stop. He might not be the truly fastest guy, but Deuce Knight has to play this season in the age of the transfer portal. Now, it helps that there are no spring transfer portal window at the end of spring. That absolutely helps. There's really nowhere that he can go, and 17, 18, 19-year-olds change their mind 3,000 times over the course of a year. So I'm not worried about Deuce getting unhappy for one reason or another. I am worried about playing time, because that's the thing that could stick a little bit. And I do think that Deuce Knight's going to find his way onto the field more than we expect him to find it, especially with a Heisman level quarterback. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Now, a loaded quarterback room, that means big benefits for Ole Miss. And how Walker Howard and AJ Maddox and Maealiuaki Smith, they can shape the Ole Miss season and not play a snap on the field. We'll tell you exactly why coming up next.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Dawn Staley and South Carolina remain on top of the SEC standings after handing Tennessee their worst defeat in program history, with a final score of 93-40. In the 43-point win, South Carolina shot 69% from the field. Tessa Johnson had a perfect shooting night, scoring 24 points, shooting 4 for 4 from the floor, including 2 threes, and made all 4 of her free throws. And UCLA remains undefeated in Big Ten play, topping Michigan 69-66 as Player of the Year contender Lauren Betts put up a double-double, scoring 16 points, collecting 16 rebounds, and adding 5 assists and 3 blocks. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
You know, one thing that's pretty interesting about this is everybody's been focused on Trinidad Chambliss, and they should be. He's the best quarterback in the entire country. And then from there, everybody's talking about Deuce Knight. And it kind of stops there when you look at the 30,000-foot view media looking at Ole Miss. But Ole Miss actually has a guy that started games in the G5 level in Walker Howard, a guy that started games at Oklahoma State a couple of years ago, Maealiuaki Smith, and then AJ Maddox, who was a 4-star that committed to Ole Miss. The quarterback room goes 5 deep. And where that gets to be important is it gives your defense a better look at a better quarterback running a system in the scout team. It's going to make the defense better. It's going to make sure that in one-on-ones or 7-on-7, you're getting good reps across multiple different areas. And remember, one thing that I do not expect to change is Ole Miss runs 2 fields in practice. On field 1 is going to be Trinidad and Deuce Knight. But on field 2, you want the good look as well. So you're going to have A.J. Maddox and Walker Howard and Maealiuaki Smith doing all of that. Lots of interesting stuff. Everybody says Deuce Knight has all of the talent in the world for Ole Miss. He just has to hone it, get ready, get used to playing the game. And Ole Miss had their first walkthrough of the spring, getting ready for spring practice. And a couple of standouts that we heard out of the Manning Center. Obviously, it was Trinidad starting quarterback and then Deuce Knight. But Mekhi Frazier, running back, RB2. The starting tackles, Tevez Davis and Carius Kern. The starting linebackers, Luke Farrelly and Keaton Thomas as well. Luke Haas is running number 1 tight end. Wide receiver, you had Jonte Cook, Daryl Gill Jr., and Deuce Alexander. And Caleb Cunningham was in the mix with that as well. But that's a little bit of stuff that came out of the walkthrough. Now, remember what the walkthrough is, as soon as the pads start popping, you're going to see changes that happen from time to time. That's the way it works. But this gives you an idea of where maybe the staff's head is at the moment. So we will pay attention to what is going on as this goes. Like I said, the leader for number 1 in the clubhouse is Deuce Alexander, who wants to go down from 11 to 1, which, makes sense. He's the returning leader of that room. I hear Jonte Cook wants that as well. Now, the question becomes, okay, and I didn't think about this when we talked about it last week, the number 1 and the number 2 jersey is available. And the number 2 jersey, was that jersey promised to Deuce Knight because of the name, obviously, what's going on? Is that the reason that Jonte Cook is going all in on the number 1? We'll see exactly how it goes, but again, single-digit numbers, that is high-dollar territory when it comes to coaches, when it comes to players. Everybody wants to be a single-digit number because, honestly, looks good. And if it looks good, it feels good. If you feel good, you play good. All right. So thank you for tuning in today to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. We're going to continue to talk transfer portal all week. So make sure you subscribe and follow the show so you get all of the latest episodes. We're on all the social channels as well. So check that out. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Ole Miss ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonolemiss.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we're going to send you on over to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you get a second listen with Locked On SEC or Locked On College Football. Hotty toddy, everybody. We are almost to spring football and baseball season. It's cooking right along. The reaction to last night's game is on the website right now, and we'll have a reaction tonight's as well. So take care. We'll talk to you later. Hotty toddy.